Today's question is, what are the keys to catching crappie? Man, the keys to catching crappie. All right, there's a couple things in my opinion, depending on how you're fishing. I'm gonna start basic and go extreme. Most basic way is on the bank, as you and I know. Get you a bobber like this. I love these spring-loaded bobbers. They're my favorite. You just boop, boop. So some things that I'll tell you if you're fishing from the bank. One, stay back from the water. I am a firm believer that the fish can hear, see, and feel you before you even know that there's fish there. You gotta remember you're in their house, right? And they have very, very, very tuned in senses, okay? It's their job to survive every single day against you, me, and every other predator that wants to kill them, especially crappie. That being said, stay back from the bank, get you a nice 6-7 foot pole. That's my opinion. Maybe 10 foot is your thing, and you're gonna stay back and you wanna pitch out to them. What I would say is pitch past them and bring it into them, especially if you're using a bobber. Let's say you have a stick up that's 10 feet in front of you. Cast it 15 feet, slowly reel it in and just stop. That way that trailing bait will swing into it and it looks way more natural. It looks more like a shad or whatever your bait looks like swimming at the bank, which is way better than something being right in line with a big thing standing on the bank, right? So my biggest tip for bank fishermen, stay back, cast to it, let it fall into it. That's my first tip for that. Next tip, let's go a little bit further, kayak fishermen. Similar, but what I would say for kayak similar is anchor about 10 to 15 feet on the opposite side of what you're gonna hit. So if you're fishing shallow, you wanna anchor out just a little bit past the structure and cast into it. You can usually get away with a 10-foot pole getting within 8 to 10 feet of the crappie, especially during the spawn. They're super aggressive. So if you're on a kayak, I would say to similar on the bank, but you can get away with a little bit more. You can kind of float up to them, but I would still stay off 8 to 10 feet. Now, if you're on a boat with standard sonar, just regular 2D, or maybe you have an older Lowrance unit or an old Garmin unit or whatever you have, if you're using 2D sonar, I think you can get away with a lot more as well. So 2D sonar, what I would do is I would locate underwater structure. You can fish stick-ups, no problem at all. If you fish stick-ups, no big deal. You can usually tie off to those and fish right down on them, same with a kayak. But I think that reduces the catch and you're gonna again want to stay off. But if you're using 2D sonar, what I would do is I would go over the structure that you find, go out 100, 200 yards, do a U-turn, come back close to it, cut off all your engines and stuff, throw the trolling motor, and then ease up to that spot. I think that there's a lot to be said for if you run up to the spot, turn off your motor, throw in the trolling motor, stomping on the deck, all that stuff. All that noise is going straight down. Those fish can hear it, feel it, see it. Just imagine, if you've ever scuba dived, you can see the sun at the surface, right? Whenever something blocks it, you're like, oh, what is that? So if you're using 2D sonar, I would go over it, go past it, do a U-turn, come back to it, and then fish it. Once you have thrown the trolling motor and eased up to it, then drop down some minnows, drop down some jigs, get your dangle on, right? Last but not least, most extreme case, let's talk about live scope. One of the most common things that I hear about live scope is the ticking. If you're using live scope, there's a tick, 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 and you can hear it in the water. Tons of people say that distracts fish, and I'm not saying it doesn't. I don't know if I haven't personally seen of any conclusive studies that have shown that it does deter fish and turn off the bite, but I'm not saying it doesn't. So if you're using a live scope, what I would tell you is start at 20 feet back, cast out to them, pendulum through the structure, and see how they react. If they're hitting it every time, just stay put. Stay at 20 foot and reel it in, reel it in. Once you have kind of caught 5-10 of them at 20 foot, ease up to 10 foot. That's usually where I like to stay, right at 10 feet. If you fish with me, if you've ever been on my boat, I like to keep the boat about 10 feet behind the structure. If you use spot lock, you're always pointed into the wind, so it would be the wind blowing this way, the structure, then your vessel. So I personally think that if you're using live scope, 10 feet is the closest you want to be, straight up closest you want to be. You can hover right over them and still catch it, but I think that the older fish are getting more wise to the noise, that ticking, and what live scope is as a whole. So hope that helps. Make sure y'all smash the subscribe button. We're on a tear right now. 30 days, 30 ways, tips and tricks to get you ripping lips. Catch y'all on the next one. Don't stop the dangle. Peace.